Welcome to Pivot Parenting, where we help parents of teens overcome regret and disappointment to find peace and connection in every situation. I'm Heather Frazier, your parenting expert. Journey with me to discover effective parenting tips, improve family relationships, and build a brighter future for your kids. Buckle up, things are about to get better. Hey, my friend, happy November. I cannot believe it is practically the end of the year. And it's my birthday this week, so that's exciting. As a gift to you, I've slashed my prices more than in half because my goal has not yet been met for this year. I have a couple of spots open and I want one of them to be for you. Obviously, we need to make sure this is a good fit. We do that through meeting up on Zoom. You go to my website, heatherfrazier.com. You schedule a free consultation call. It's less than an hour. We sit and visit. I'll outline for you how I can help you with your specific set of struggles. And then we decide if it's a good fit to work together. No pressure. Any way you slice it, you're going to walk away with more information, more confidence, and a little more hope that the future maybe isn't as doomed as you think. So I invite you, before the new year hits, to grab a call with me if you're having any kind of struggle with your teen, tween, young adult. And the holidays tend to bring these things out. I would love for one of my last spots of the year to be yours. All right, today's topic, purity culture. This is something that as a woman, as a Christian, as a mother of 3 daughters, is very near and dear to my heart. Because as a woman in the female world, we are the direct impact. But let us not lie to ourselves. This also secondarily and very impactfully impacts the men and everybody else in our lives as well. I want to define purity culture for you, and this is loosely defined because I think we all experience it in slightly different ways. But purity culture, it's not the opposite of immoral or sinful. It's the opposite or counterfeit of being chaste or pure or respectful. It can be included in intimacy, modesty, or sexual matters, but it isn't wholly these things. It harms all genders, starting with females as the primary target. It can be a piece of the patriarchy. It is creating a hierarchy based off of perceived purity or goodness. But God, as I know God, has no hierarchies. All of us are equally invaluable. God doesn't rank us against each other. This is distinctly human. In fact, when Christ was on earth, he never said, "Geez, Peter, why can't you be more like Paul?" He said, "Peter, be more like me." He invited everyone to be like him. Not better than anyone else, just more Christ-like. Purity culture is believing in original sin, that we're evil inherently and must earn our goodness or worth through strict obedience. Not that we're not inherently worthy and good. That divine love is earned, and it's righteous to model this with ourselves, our kids, and our peers. It's when actual purity of heart and soul are replaced with the desire to control others' opinions, thoughts, actions, and preserve the appearance of goodness rather than devoting our limited time and energy to actual goodness. So the ideal purity, what purity culture sells, is counterfeit purity. Let me give you some examples of what this sounds like, and then you might even want to go back and re-listen to what I just said to pick up the nuance to connect the dots. This can sound like, but not limited to, I think I've got almost a dozen bullet points here. The chewed bubblegum or bruised rose chastity lesson in churches. Now, if you are lucky enough to not have experienced this, it basically is a lesson given primarily to ladies, young women, children, that you pass around chewing gum, and at the end, well, who would want that chewing gum? It's already been chewed. Essentially likening the young woman to a piece of gum, and that if she is not sexually innocent or pure, that nobody will want her. She's been chewed up. Now, in Elizabeth Smart's book, and she was a victim of many months of sexual assault and abuse and kidnapping, she had this lesson. She had this lesson. And although she had been abused countless times, she was still taught this lesson that she was less valuable because she was not as innocent, because somebody else's desires had been put upon her. We need to do away with this lesson. It's just not good any way you slice it. Purity culture can also sound like it's husbands wanting a pure, inexperienced wife on their honeymoon, and also a woman who likes and wants to have sex all the time, however he'd like it, preferably. So it's wanting their cake and eating it too. But typically this really befuddles a woman's mentality, because if we teach our children that women should be innocent and not have any kind of sexual desires, we are objectifying them. We're essentially trying to create them as an object for their spouse or partner. And it's really, really hard to turn off that messaging and then actually have a healthy, happy sexual relationship. It's slut shaming or tearing down a woman for how she looks or is dressed. Once in church, a fellow member of the primary presidency that was serving with me at church said that her dad was offended that she would be one of those tall boot women, like as in taller, like knee-length dress boots. You know, the kind that have heels and they go up to your knee. Usually there's like a zipper or they're kind of stretchy. Yeah, I have lots of those. But apparently her dad, who was well into, his 60s or 70s, thought that those were impure, which made me laugh. It's teaching our girls that they need to dress to help keep boys' minds in check, to help boys control their thoughts. Not for their comfort or wishes as the wearer of the clothes, but that they should dress for others, and strictly the presentation and the ideas that their appearance might convey to others. This is really unhealthy in that we're teaching our girls they're responsible for how other people think and feel and behave, which is 100% false. Purity culture is asking what a girl was wearing when she was assaulted, or why she put herself in that position. Victim shaming is purity culture. It's also not fully believing that repentance is real, discounting the atonement for yourself or others because of what has happened, that chastity can't be forgiven or a lack of, and that this forever affects the worth of that person or their rank in society or spirituality. For example, the gal on the street who had an affair and is now remarried, trying her best. How do you and the neighbors choose to think about and treat her? It's thinking that a body count matters. And when I say body count, that is simply the trendy term for saying how many partners you've had, being a bragging point for boys and shameful for girls if it's too high. It's believing boys will be boys, but girls need to always be in control of themselves. It's believing that feminine is weak. It's teaching our sons that sexual thoughts are impure, unholy, and evil, when actually We want our kids to normally sexually develop. They're normal. It is what we do with them. It's a general assumption that both sexuality and self-expression are evil or base. And we can break these down into 5 kind of little buckets of purity or counterfeit purity. So there's the emotional side. This can be believing that feeling anger, doubt, grief, or resentment makes you spiritually unclean or less faithful. Many people suppress emotions instead of processing them, confusing calmness or outward peace with holiness. It's okay to have the full gamut of emotions. Thought purity. And again, all those examples that I just gave you can fall into some of these buckets. Teaching that impure or questioning thoughts, like about our faith, about leadership, about doctrine, are sinful. Now we need to keep those rose-colored glasses on and the blinders in place. This can lead to intellectual fear and discouraging curiosity or critical thinking, which are huge for our kids to have healthy relationships with themselves, with God, with other humans. Gender role purity. Expect women or men to behave in narrow, prescribed ways. Women must be nurturing and submissive, for example, and men must be stoic and dominant and not show emotion, because deviation is seen as a moral failure, not healthy, or seen as individuality. We have to just align with the prescribed roles. Otherwise, there's something wrong with us. There's spiritual purity, treating church attendance, scripture reading, or outward obedience as proof of worthiness. And I can personally attest to knowing a good many people who do all these things who are not Christ-like. But they're checking off the boxes and they look so great doing it. And then we view doubt, fatigue, or boundary setting as evidence of spiritual decay, or on the fringe, or ready to leave the congregation, when really they're just a human figuring it out and they're being authentic. And then the 5th one is social purity, shunning or distancing from people considered worldly or sinful to maintain one's own moral standing, rather than practicing empathy, inclusion, compassion. Just for example, Christ was always hanging out with the sinners. He wasn't really scared. Heaven forbid that prostitute rub her hair on his feet. She might rub off on him. No, he chastised his disciples and said, let her come. She is like serving me. She is good. It is okay that she is here. He hung out with tax collectors and all kinds of people that society at the time thought were awful. And he did not shun them. He welcomed them with open arms. Hi there. I just want to pause and let you know if you are struggling to make sense of your teen's behaviors, emotions are running wild, and you're looking to turn things around to have the family you dreamed of while rocking them to sleep, I would love to talk to you. I want to give you a special, powerful gift. 30 minutes with me, my friend. You'll walk away with more confidence, clarity, and understanding of what the issue is and your next best step in resolving any situation you bring to me. It's completely free. I love families and want to help yours be wildly happy and successful. Book this call by visiting my website, heatherfraser.com. Remember, Fraser is spelled with a Z-I in the middle. And don't worry, the link is also in the show notes. I look forward to meeting and helping you. All right, now that we've identified what purity culture is and how it can look and take shape in our lives, I want to ask you where it shows up in your life and in your family. So do we pass this on to our children because of our fears, insecurities, our own trepidation around sexuality and how uncomfortable that is? Do we see our leaders, teachers passing this on to our children, maybe grandparents? Where is this showing up? I promise you that it is in at least a few different spaces and places because it's pretty pervasive, especially in high demand religious settings. And this, not necessarily Christian, any high demand religion is going to have undertones of this. And the reason why is because it is the low-hanging fruit. It is the easiest way to judge others, to judge ourselves, to make calls on if things are good or bad. But what this does, when we contribute and buy into purity culture, is essentially it is an inauthentic way of being. Because we're judging a book by its cover. Now, sometimes the cover is accurate, but sometimes it is not accurate. And so to make judgment calls based off of appearance or assumption, which usually we assume the worst, is really unhealthy. It disables us from knowing ourselves. When we use purity culture in our own headspace. And then it stunts us being able to connect and understand our children. And they catch on very quickly that they have to hide parts of them that aren't good enough or aren't pure by purity culture's standards. The easiest way to show you this is if your kid is looking at porn and they don't tell you and you find it, or they are being more intimate with somebody that they're dating and they keep you in the dark, or they fake being really good in other ways to try and keep you happy, to manage your perception of them. And we can do this back at them. Right? We don't talk about things that are uncomfortable for us because we would rather keep up the persona that we are better, I mean that very loosely, than we really are. Because the truth is, we're all imperfect, and I want to push against the idea that sexuality is not godly. It can be. Sexuality is neutral. It is what we do with it, just like time, just like money. These are all tools that everybody has on a various scale, except for time. We all have 24 hours, but some people have more money so they can hire out things for time, like hiring housekeepers or tutors for their kid, or not having to work 2 jobs, which essentially creates more time. So when we look at how we use our time, money, sexuality, whatever it is that we're basing our purity culture on, does it create goodness in our life? Is it evolving us into a more understanding, healthy, whole person? That's the thing that we want to ask. So, there are 5 steps that we want to implement in our home to help our teens build healthy self-perspective, healthy ways to view others, specifically around sexuality. But it doesn't have to just be we're going to go down the sexuality vein, but it doesn't have to just be in this. We can use purity culture in all these other ways. So the number 1 is we want to shift from shame to worthiness. We need to teach our teen that we cannot earn worthiness. It is not an earned behavior. Every human is worthy of love, is worthy of respectful behavior. Doesn't matter what they've done or what they haven't done. We want to start saying you're good, you're whole. Your choices don't change your worth, or other people's choices that they have put upon you do not decide your worth. Repeating in subtle and overt ways that people can mess up, people can be incomplete, people can get things wrong, and it doesn't mean that they are less than. This helps to dissolve the fear-based core of purity culture. There's no hierarchy when God looks at us. There isn't. And if we want a more godlike lens, that's what we need to do. So yes, our choices have consequences, good and bad. If we study and work hard and go to college, that's different than somebody who doesn't want to study and goes and does other things. They get different results. That's just kind of the laws of choice and agency. Neither is better or worse than the other. They're both worthy of love and goodness. Number 2 is we need to normalize sexual development. Treat body's desire and attraction as normal because they are. It is not dangerous. What is dangerous is purity culture, so that our kids hide it from us and then they lie about it and then they don't come to us for guidance and counsel. That is far more dangerous. So have calm, curious conversations about boundaries, consent, respect, emotional readiness. Talk about the physiological benefits and hazards of intimacy because those exist. When parents stay grounded, teens learn that sexuality is part of being human, not something to hide, which means they will embrace it within themselves, which means they will have happier and healthier committed relationships in their future, which is what we all want for our kids. And I get that this is uncomfortable. There is a psychological phenomenon that makes anything sexual between conversations, actions between us and our kids feel really icky to everyone. And this is a good thing because incest is not a good thing. So that is good that it feels icky. And we can say, this is really uncomfortable for me too, but I just want you to know that we're here for you. Come ask some questions. It's normal if you are having thoughts about the cute people you see in school. The other day, I was driving my daughter. I was picking her up from somewhere and I was like, ooh, did you flirt with anyone? She's like, Mom. And I said, what? Flirting is fun. And then she started laughing and she's like, yeah, it is. But that natural inclination to pull back, to not talk about it, we need to consistently overcome that with our kids so that they will come to us so that we can help keep them safe. Keeping communication open, normalized, and healthy is the best way to safeguard our kids from predators and from harm, and to help them overcome things if there is harm. Number 3, model emotional health. Show them that emotions like anger, grief, doubt, desire are not impure. They're not. It's called being human. We want to give them healthy coping strategies. We need to teach them to feel, to name, and process these emotions instead of suppressing them or turning to their phones or porn or video games or food to run away from their feelings. We don't want them to create these bad habits. So we need to teach them how to recognize, move through emotions. It's basic emotional health because healthy teens make emotionally healthy sexual decisions. They have less issues to escape through poor choices. And that is a good thing. Number 4 is we want to build connection, not try to manage or control the situation. And our most basic brain wants to white knuckle control. And your kid will reject that. So we want to push off our natural inclination. So replace rule policing with open conversation. I'm not saying don't have rules and consequences, but we want to always place ourselves on the same side as our kid. And I have a whole podcast episode on that you can search. It's playing on the same side. So ask questions instead of lecturing. When we can ask intelligent questions to our kids, then they come up with the ideas instead of being told by us, which makes them want to embrace the intelligence more readily. So what matters most to you in a relationship? Let's say your daughter's boyfriend is pressuring her and she doesn't really want to be intimate, but she really likes her boyfriend. Well, what matters most to you in a relationship? Instead of, you should break up with him, he's a jerk. Let her come to that conclusion on her own. I promise it will go better. Because when kids feel connected, they actually care about using good judgment. I promise. And then number 5 is to teach accountability with compassion. Mistakes are part of growing up. Your kid is going to beat themselves up more than you can. You do not need proof of spiritual failure or moral failure. You're there to teach them that they're good no matter what, that they're worthy no matter what, that mistakes are normal, that failure is part of the deal, that people aren't going to like them when they stick to their values, that people are going to judge them when they do stick to their values, but they don't look like values because it's not purity culture values, like sticking up for people who are marginalized. Help them reflect, help them repair and move forward instead of spiraling into shame. This helps them build lifelong emotional and spiritual resilience. Essentially, we want to help them move from the inauthentic pretense of goodness in any shape or form to actual goodness and letting go of how people perceive that, because it's none of their business. And that is the biggest piece. That's my most juicy tidbit for you to embrace out of this whole episode, is that being inauthentic is purity culture. And being authentic can be interpreted in many ways. Some people will see it for the goodness that it is. And some people, because you don't fit the mold of what they think is good, will judge you, will try to shame you, will try to get you to conform to their perception of goodness. But when you know and you have connected with what is divine, with what is in line with your highest integrity, then you can allow other people to think and feel how they want. And this is the most wonderful example that we can pass on to our children. Because at the end of the day, we're left with our own headspace and how we see ourselves. And we want to respect ourselves, and we want our children to respect themselves. Because when they respect themselves, it is much harder for them to allow anybody else to disrespect them. Thank you for listening, my friend. I hope you have a wonderful week. As always, reach out if there's anything I can help you with, including implementing this in your home. Have a wonderful week.